So,
Yeah.
emotional resilience is a powerful, powerful thing. And
Mm,
that's something that we wrote about in our first book, Scene, that was geared towards parents and educators, because what we've noticed over the years, especially educators have been telling this, and I was an educator, I still am an educator,
mhm,
that kids have lost their grit. And so
mm,
grit is a term that we equate with perseverance, that we equate with emotional resilience,
mm,
going through adversity and not giving up, which is
mm.
exactly what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
emotional resilience really does refer to the ability to bounce back from
Mm,
challenging and tough times. And when you talk about the young people feeling let down and maybe even duped, because
mhm.
boy, we went from, like you said, racial wreck
Yep.
to I mean, can we talk about what's happening?
Yeah, we can't even talk about it
And
now. Like it's like
no.
you can't even mention it. You're being divisive, or
Oh,
you just got to take it. You need to be silent. You need
you're
to like
negative.
everything is CRT. So
Oh,
it's it. You know how it impacts us as an adult, because this is a
yes.
part of our lived history, that our
Yes.
experiences, that you're told that um no, because it makes other people feel bad. You don't need
Uncomfortable.
to
Mhm.
talk about that. So just imagine what's happening in some of these classrooms where,
Mm,
you know, you can't talk about the hard things, but other groups like, Asian Americans would talk about that history, but that's considered American history, but Black
mm.
history isn't considered
And we
American
want and we
history.
wonder why 6 and 7 and 8-year-old Black boys and girls come home and say, "I don't like my color. I don't like
Yeah,
being this color. Can I be tan? Can I be?" I've heard it
yeah,
all.
yeah.
Um, I hear a little bit of an echo, but what I want to share is
Mhm.
just today, I learned, and maybe this happened recently, the day of this recording, which is, I don't know what, May 17th,
Yeah.
I learned that the governor in Florida signed a
Hmm.
bill into law that bans the teaching of diversity,
Yeah.
equity, and inclusion, or bans the funding of those
Yes, the funding.
programs,
Hmm.
and also limits the way that race can be talked about, and get this, in public
I
institutions
know.
in Florida. And so for me, and this is where, sometimes yeah,
Yeah.
I don't get it as much as you, Latasha, because
Yeah.
I talk about other things. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to cry about it, but I get some pushback in terms of, things that I say about race being political, and
Yeah.
that's from someone else's perspective. And that's
Yeah.
fine. Everybody can have their perspective. I
Politics are
don't.
about people. We care
Thank
about
you. We
people.
care about
Yeah.
people, and for me, this is about the things that I have always talked about:
Hmm.
worth, value, belonging,
Yes.
dignity. So again, think about those students that are in these programs actively
Hmm.
studying, researching, and what was just signed into law. Let's take a moment and sit with that. And those are students. So I'm grieving today. And again,
Yeah.
this may have happened yesterday, but
Yeah.
and by the way, let's also acknowledge that today is the 69th anniversary of the landmark case, Brown versus the Board of Education,
Yes.
Latasha.
Hmm.
So that it feels very fitting that we're having
Mm.
this conversation. And we didn't plan
Yes.
this, but guess who planned it?
Yeah. I
God.
love it. I love it. Let's go there. Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
at the core of this conversation is belonging,
Hmm.
worthiness, value. And I've talked to a
Yeah.
room full of moms, sometimes even 500, 600. I think at one point I talked to 1,000 moms about race. Those invitations are not coming anymore. But
Hmm.
my hope lies in a lot of different areas, but that those moms, even though politicians are telling us one thing, that they still see the value in having these conversations, because nothing gets healed. So I am the expert on
Yeah.
trauma, and I have studied a lot, and I don't feel super comfortable being called an expert in racial trauma, but I've dug deeply into it. And what I have learned, among many things, is that healing first and foremost begins with acknowledgement.
Yes.
So when we're brushing race under the
Yep.
rug and we're pretending like it doesn't matter or doesn't exist, again, think of the children. And that
Yeah.
hurts emotional resilience, or that causes sort of shame. But emotional resilience is teaching kids to talk about their feelings, to express their worries, their grief. And also, this is very, very important, to have strong relationships with supportive parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, because that's
Yeah.
the foundation for emotional resilience.
Yes, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that. I think, I think we're all grieving. Everybody's trying to wrap their head around how can this be happening, and why would someone want to do this? But we can. The why is a whole nother podcast, in and of itself. And but just the impact. So we have to prepare as a community. And I think this is the thing, is to prepare as a community to make sure that we take care of the children that are in our communities, to that there are other resources. I know for us would be the bridge. I'm like, hey, so this is about funding. There's some things that we can offer. There's just some things that we can put together to tool parents to make sure that their children are being cared for in their homes. Churches can make sure that their students are being cared for. Communities. This is when you're going to need allies and accomplices to come around to make sure that we're standing together, we're marching together, we're
Mhm.
protesting together, because I do believe that there's more people that are against this than that are for it. But I think
Yes.
they're paralyzed because of fear, and they don't know what to do. And we
What to
see that
do.
historically as it relates to racial issues in our country. And so, as Be the Bridge, we want to give people the tools. We want to give people help, come alongside people so that they can stand up, for all humans,
Yes.
for biblical justice,
Yes.
because I know that God would not be backing this, because we are all about our history. Our faith is all about remembrance.
Yes.
There's so many things in our faith, as when we take communion, when we do baptism. We just went through Resurrection Sunday. We're coming up
Yes.
on Pentecost. If it didn't pass, I don't think Pentecost has come yet, but it may be passed. I may have missed it, but I'm just saying, like, those are things that we're to remember,
Yes.
the glory of God, and
Yes.
this helps us to heal. This helps us to be better Christians. Like, we understand in a natural state, if there was an abusive relationship, the only way forward in that is going to be to talk about what has happened. How do we get here? And so we
Mm.
understand that naturally. So history also is like that. So I love, you give some tips. Like, there's some tips that you give when it comes to teens and racism and dealing with social unrest. And there was one thing you wrote: 4 tips for talking to kids and teens about racism and social unrest. And this was back in 2020, girl. I done went through and pulled out stuff that we could talk about today.
Love it.
Um, um, you said, find out what your child knows and how they feel about race.
Mhm.
Tip 2, you said, be direct and honest about racism and racial justice. Like, these are conversations that I know that you have to have with your boys, because we have to make sure that they understand so that they can be prepared to deal with what is happening in the world around them, because it may save their life.
Amen.
Be okay with not knowing all the answers.
Mhm.
That's the third tip you say, because that's important. You're not going to know everything. There's some things that we may have to say, you know what, we're going to have to find out, or we're going to find out this together. It's, that we don't have to have all the answers. And I think that's what a lot of parents feel like they have to know. We get a lot of parents that are like, I don't know how to address it. It's
Mhm.
okay to say, I don't know. Like,
Mhm.
but we're going to find out together. We're going
Together.
to try to look at this, together. And then the other thing is, take advantage of the opportunity. This is
Mhm.
a opportunity to listen. This is an opportunity to
Yes.
read books together, to watch movies together, to
Yes.
have conversations, to bring your friends around, and to bring community
Yes.
around this. So I love that.